My name is Mark Zimmerly. I'm the pastor of Madrona Grace Presbyterian Church in Seattle, Washington. Madrona Grace Presbyterian Church has a bunch of things going on these days in terms of mission. We have a family shelter in the basement called Julia's Place that is a partnership with the local homeless agency downtown. We recently got a 1001 new church development grant to start a new worshiping community midweek, doing kind of a dinner style service. And now we have this tiny house project that we're working on, building tiny houses for homeless people. The hope is that churches in the Seattle area, Seattle Presbyterian churches, other churches would host a tiny house on their property as a way of alleviating and someday ending homelessness. We also may have the opportunity to place tiny houses in the backyards of church members around the city. And we hope that people in other jurisdictions, other places in the country will also think it's a good idea and that the idea will take off. Well, we're doing it one by one. That's the great thing about tiny houses. One of the problems with building homeless housing is that you usually need property, and if you're building apartments, it takes large initial investments. The great thing about tiny houses is that you can do them one tiny house at a time, help one homeless person at a time, and so we don't have an initial estimate of how many houses we can build. We're building one right now, and we've got enough money to build another one. The materials cost between $12,000 and $20,000 depending on how frugal you are and what kind of materials you can reclaim or reuse. The project also addresses the issue of zoning and the idea of where homeless people can be or should be in our city. Oftentimes, cities like Seattle will push homeless people out to industrial areas or places where there aren't services. Our hope is that this program allows for homeless people to be embedded in neighborhoods with good neighbors, in places where they can easily access things like groceries and social assistance programs and the community of churches. This is a way of welcoming homeless people into our networks of support. The congregation at Madrona Grace has been incredibly supportive of the idea of helping homeless people in general through our basement homeless shelter that we have going. When the idea was floated to use pretty much half of our building space to house the homeless people, there were no objections to it. We were surprised to find that our neighbors had no objections either. We hope by extending our hospitality beyond our church building to our church grounds to be more visible in our witness towards alleviating homelessness, that people in the neighborhood would take note and also other congregations would take note of this is a way that we can continue to live out Christ's call to us to serve those who are most in need. One of our parish associate ministers ran into a teacher at the local community college and found out that at their Wood Technology Center they build houses for people for free, basically, just as a teaching opportunity for their students. And so they were more than happy to volunteer to build the tiny house for us, and all we would have to do was supply the materials, which has been a wonderful partnership. The students are really excited to be working on something that benefits the homeless, and they're also excited to be learning how to build a tiny home, since tiny houses are really trendy at the moment. And some of these students have said that they want to go on and help with further projects. I don't think it's enough to simply send a check or to become a lobbyist, because Jesus was personally invested in the people who he served. And so we in this project are trying to become more personal in our discipleship and to make it clear that Jesus calls us to make changes in our individual lives as well as in our corporate life together. So this is one of the ways that we are joining with the popular culture in working towards God's dream of justice and equality for people. And as we do that, we find that people are more open to our perspective of who Jesus is and what Jesus calls us to in life.